So let me go into the digestion now. If you guys go home and you have a compromised colon, there's another step. Oh, I should raise this side. Raise this side. If you have a compromised colon, you're not going to absorb your food, and you're not going to digest it, and then therefore you're not going to absorb it. All right, so get rid of my block. There it is. Okay, so you have a mouth, you have esophagus, you have the stomach, you have the duodenum, the rest of the small intestines, large intestines, rectum, appendix, ileocecal bowel, liver, gallbladder, pancreas ties out, and then the stomach. Okay, so the very first thing we need to do is we actually need to digest our food in our mouth. We actually have 3 glands, the parotid, the sublingual, and the submandibular, and teeth. We're actually supposed to chew and chyme our food so it breaks down. And those foods, even if you juice, they say you should chew your juice, right? Because you got to get those enzymes going on here. So as a society, again, we pretty much inhale our food. We need to slow down and actually chew our food. And the second part of digestion is actually in the stomach. This is called hydrochloric acid. So we have these little parietal cells in the stomach that actually produces acid. Now the vagus nerve from the brain comes down and actually innervates the stomach. So it's telling it to do that. And every single animal, every single child produces hydrochloric acid. That is not an error. We absolutely have to have hydrochloric acid in the stomach here to break down our proteins and break down the food to a smaller size. It's got to break down 1 level, 2 level before it gets to like the second stomach here. This is the first part of the small intestine. It's called the duodenum, sort of like the second stomach, because you have the bile. Liver makes the bile. It's stored in the gallbladder. Gallbladder releases the bile down to emulsify fats. And then your pancreas, besides the insulin and all the other stuff that it does, it actually produces enzymes that come in here and breaks down all the rest of the stuff, like carbs and proteins again. And then once it goes into the small intestine, the rest of the small intestine, that's where absorption happens. If that does not happen by default, it has to rot and putrefy. Okay? Now, if it rots and putrefies, we have to create an antigen to come in to attack it. Okay? This is not what we don't want that happening. Okay? We want us breaking the foods down. We want our stomachs digesting them here. So if we're uptight and we actually have a hinal hernia, which is the diaphragm going into spasm, and the stomach, this is the diaphragm, this is the esophagus, and this is the stomach. If we get uptight, we get nervous, we're upset, and we do whatever it is, the stomach literally can come up and it gets strangled by the diaphragm, okay, and that's created a hinal hernia. That compromised that valve, and if the valve is open ever so slightly, acid will come upstream. That's bad, okay? If acid for any reason goes downstream, that is bad because these tissues here are not designed to handle hydrochloric acid, okay? Stomach is. So we keep eating soda pop, coffee, Twinkies, sugar, all this yucky stuff, and what happens is it actually buffers out the hydrochloric acid and our stomach becomes unacidic. Now, we again, as healthy people, say, okay, why did God put it there in the first place? Why do we need this acidity? The positive reason is that the only way we can break down our calciums and our zinc and our irons and our B12s and even the hydrogen off the heart, lungs, and so forth and so on, it has to be acid in the stomach to break down those. That's where we're talking about the calcium. You have to, I learned that in organic chemistry, you have to have an acidic environment. So with Tums work, one company, multi-billion-dollar company, one thing, Tums. Tums. What do they say? Which makes me so mad. Right? You'll get your calcium. And I guarantee you go to any university, you ask any professor, because I remember being in his class and we're passing the Tums around before a test and he went ballistic about how bad that was for our bodies. And so I was just kind of like, what's kind of weird? And then in chiropractic school, it all came together. You cannot absorb calcium unless you're in an acidic environment. So that whole Tums thing is a crock. The whole thing makes me infuriated.